Welcome to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. My name is Will Frantz, and I'm here to help you improve your training so you can have more fun out on the trails. Welcome back to Trail and Ultra Running Training. If you find this podcast worthwhile, please leave a rating or review or just share it with someone else. I would really appreciate it. Today, let's talk about the idea that something is always better than nothing. And I hear this from a lot of people, and sometimes it's very true. And we're going to get into that first, but sometimes it's not. So if you have the idea that something is always better than nothing, stick around for a couple minutes because there's very often another side to this story. So when this is true is when we try to make perfection the enemy of the good, where we try to keep ourselves from doing something just because we couldn't have done it perfectly, right? So something like you have a 60-minute run on the calendar, but due to life things, you only have 40 to 45 minutes to get that run done. Or maybe you have 5 strides at the end of the run and you get an urgent call and only do 2 and you have to leave and you feel really bad about it. Great. Neither of those things are that big of a deal, right? As long as they don't happen all the time, the latter one's clearly not your fault, but as long as the first one doesn't happen all the time, if it does, probably a good sign that we should try and plan our life a little better. But for the most part, if you're doing well and you're a little short on the time you need to complete something, then just do what you can. That's a good idea most of the time. Something is very much better than nothing there. 10 minutes counts, 15 minutes counts. This is true almost all of the time when it comes to training. If we have a training thing on the schedule and we don't have the full amount of time to do the training, we either need to shuffle our week, which can be done responsibly, but very often, it's just not that big of a deal if you miss the last 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, right? Just go do some work and it will be okay. Now, this is also true when it comes to food, where if you can't have whatever perfect meal you envision, the right answer is not to starve yourself or not eat at all. It is to try and eat something that is beneficial to you. I am not the best about remembering to eat a lot of the time, and I will often realize that, I have 15 minutes to get to work, 20 minutes or whatever, and instead of eating, could just leave. Do that a lot, if we're going to be super honest, but the answer really is trying to do what I've been much better about over the past few weeks, which is to slam together a really quick protein shake with some fruit and whatever, or grab some cottage cheese and eat that. It's still something. It still has some protein. It will still help with recovery. We can get something that will help with fuel, right? It doesn't need to be perfect to be beneficial. And this is also very clearly true when it comes to sleep. I feel like nobody actually takes this mentality when it comes to sleep. So just to illustrate how silly the other things are, if you feel best on 8 hours of sleep and due to, again, life circumstances, maybe your kid's sick, I don't know, but you only have 6 hours until you're going to wake up in the morning, the answer is very clearly not to say, well, can't get 8 hours, I guess I'm just going to stay up till morning. It is to get 6 hours of sleep, right? Do your best with the time you have. And in those circumstances, this is when something is very much better than nothing. Life comes up, things happen. We might not knock it out of the park 100%, but at least we can get 60, 80, 90% of the way there. And that's fine. Just do that and you'll be okay. And in other situations, something is not necessarily better than nothing. I think we can take this too far. And I'll give you a couple micro examples, but they both fall under, and all of the things I can think of in this category fall under the general umbrella of if you're already really fatigued because you're training a lot and whatever something you're thinking of doing adds even more fatigue without giving you any benefit, then it's not a good idea, and something is not better than nothing in that instance. One example is versions of some kinds of strength training, right? And the problem is they're not actually strength training. Like a lot of popular classes fall into this category. And for strength training, we need to lift heavy enough things to challenge our muscles in a way that command them to get stronger, right? And certain classes are more cardio with weights, which is fine. I'm not making the blanket statement that cardio with weights is bad. I don't believe that. I know people for whom that's really good. I would personally, they're not my thing, but for a lot of people, they're great. For a lot of people, they build a great sense of community, and it's literally their only exercise on a weekly basis, and they love them. And if that's you, then I think that's wonderful. Go get a good workout in. However, most of the people listening to this are trail and ultra runners. And if you're in a training block for a race, then that is not your only exercise. In fact, you probably have a pretty hectic, pretty stacked running schedule. And in that case, some of these classes are largely adding fatigue without any extra training benefit. Now, one more before we say anything, we can't overlook the social aspect of really any activity, right? Like we live in a fairly lonely, detached society, and social interaction is arguably the most important thing to long-term health, aside from maybe sleep and air. So if you meet with the same group of people for the same class every week and you go get brunch afterwards and it's a staple part of your routine and you love it, then great. Please keep doing that. It is just not beneficially affecting your running. Doesn't mean it's not beneficial for you as a human, right? Just like that I know my weekly or twice weekly climbing session doesn't help my running, and I literally could not care less. I love to climb. I like hanging out with my climbing friends. It is of zero importance to me that it probably makes me a worse runner. That said, there are people who do some of these strength classes because they hear they should do strength work. So they sign up for a class and they trudge through it on a weekly basis. Now, if the class has a good instructor and you're moving heavier weights in lower rep ranges, let's call it 12 and down, and you're pushing yourself to form fatigue and increasing weight every week or most weeks, cool. That's fantastic. That is a great thing, and as long as it's safe and well monitored and responsible with your running schedule, lovely. Realize not everyone loves strength training, and if a class like that helps you do it, please do that. That's wonderful. However, there are classes where they do 40 lunges and then 50 overhead presses with really small weights, or just I've seen people do literally no weight overhead presses until shoulder fatigue. Then they toss in some burpees, which are just not great for most people because most people struggle with a push-up, much less a push-up under fatigue with jumping, right? Cardio with weights classes like this are going to do more harm than good to your training, and if you aren't getting a good social benefit from it, this is one of those instances where we should probably find something else, because in this particular example, something is not better than nothing. We also see the at least it's something response when people are sick or injured. If you're sick or injured, then do nothing can be the right response. Depends on the sickness, depends on the injury. But if running is going to make your injury worse or prolong your recovery in a way that really affects your improvement, then don't run. Yes, there are intricate problems to be solved here, right? Like plantar fasciitis, often a 1 to 2 year full recovery cycle, and you can run with it as long as you're responsible and like do rehabby things and take care of yourself. Fine. Technically, you would heal faster if you completely took off from the plantar fasciitis, but then you'd have to start from scratch from running, right? So there's a line to toe here. I get that, but if we like have a stress fracture, you need to not run. That's how things work. And I know people who have run on stress fractures. Please don't do that. Take the time off, hop on a bike, and you'll be fine. And if we're sick, same kind of idea. If running is going to prolong your sickness, and especially if a certain kind of running is going to prolong your sickness, don't run either. Take a day to eat a lot of food, get some rest, do a little mobility work if you need to ease your anxiety. You're absolutely not going to lose fitness in a couple days. And if you really want to listen to a good podcast on that topic, listen to one of the most recent episodes of Running Explained. I want to say it's like season 4, episode 10. It's called something like How Long Does It Actually Take to Lose Fitness? Really worthwhile. I think pretty much every endurance athlete should hear that. I linked it to my whole Mountain Goat Discord because I think it's just that valuable. Anyway, something is not always better than nothing. Very often true, especially if we're trying to like talk ourselves out of something because we can't do it perfectly. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just do hard work consistently and you will improve. And other times, though, nothing is the right response. If you're in a big training cycle and all you're doing is adding more fatigue and not getting any benefit from it, then something is much worse than nothing. Context matters here. We work hard, recover harder, and take care of yourself. Hope this was helpful, and we'll be back soon with another one. Thank you for listening to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. Honestly, I'm still surprised and honored that anybody wants to hear what I have to say, so thank you. To be clear, not a doctor, nor a registered dietitian, or any other kind of medical professional. I'm a personal trainer, a nutrition coach, and a running coach, and I have a passion for training trail runners. You should always speak with a qualified medical professional before making any changes to your training or nutrition program. If you enjoyed the podcast or found it helpful, please take a second to leave a rating or review. I'd really appreciate it. Or you could just share it with someone for whom you think it might be helpful. I make these kinds of things in order to provide more quality, free resources to people, so the more people who hear it, the better. If you want more of this information, please head to the Trail and Ultra Running Training group on Facebook, where we discuss all aspects of training so you can have more fun doing the sport that you love. Thank you again for listening.